This is Gridiron Graduates, a weekly podcast covering all things football. Episode number 29, Tigers on the Roll Tide. Recorded January 6th, 2016.
Hey, what's going on, guys and gals? Bill Rossetti hitting you guys back up. Another edition of Grid Grads coming at you. How you guys doing? As always, joining me is my good buddy Ian Wharton. What's going on, my friend?
Not too much, man. Just getting ready for the most important weekends of football schedule. Obviously, we've got the playoffs coming up this weekend. We've got the college football final coming up Monday night. So, pretty important football getting played. If you're a fan of one of these teams, congratulations. You've made it to the Elite Eight of football, I guess you could say, and hopefully your team doesn't get chopped down before they should. But if they do, hey, at least you've gotten this far. It's been a long time since I could say that.
I know. I just can't believe it. It feels like just yesterday you and I were, before the start of the season, gearing up for week one, gearing up for another season. And now here we are, the regular season's over. There's only a few weeks left. Man, it's crazy how fast it went.
Yeah, there's no doubt about it. And it's the fun part at this point of the season is just like the intensity of the matchups. You really can't replicate what you're going to see this weekend. So even though it's not our team's playing, unfortunately, it's still very enjoyable football for just even casual fans.
Absolutely. I do want to quick touch on a couple other subjects, though, first.
Yeah.
I don't know if you saw the Baseball Hall of Fame announcement was today. Only 2 members this year. That's Ken Griffey Jr. and Mike Piazza getting elected. And the only complaint I have about that is how did 3 people not vote for Ken Griffey Jr.? When I saw that, it's like, come on, like you gotta vote for Griffey. He's one thing.
Yeah, I mean, that's a guy I know. I mean, I grew up playing baseball and all throughout, since I can remember. And Junior Griffey, that's the guy. I mean, even as a righty, I wasn't a lefty batter, but his swing is just iconic. The things that he did on the baseball field, just an incredible player. So if anyone deserves to be a first ballot Hall of Famer, it's him.
Absolutely. So, and boy, this is how you know we're getting old. I mean, these are players that we grew up with. As we're getting into baseball, these guys are like in their prime, and now here they are about to be elected into the Hall of Fame. It's like, wow. But well deserved for the 2 of them. Piazza, of course, one of the greatest catchers we've seen, and obviously Griffey, you can certainly make the argument that he, if he didn't have all these injuries, how many home runs would he have in his career? So, without a doubt, well deserved for them. Maybe next year we'll see guys like Jeff Bagwell get into the Hall. I know Manny Ramirez is eligible for the first time. Ivan Rodriguez, good old Pudge, he's eligible for the first time. So, again, it's pretty crazy that all these guys that we actually watched play are now all of a sudden eligible for the Hall of Fame. It's like...
Yeah, it's crazy. And baseball just feels so much quicker, too, to get guys in the Hall. I don't know why. Maybe it's just because NFL guys, maybe there's not that many Hall of Famers, in comparison.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, like you mentioned, when we were growing up, there was a lot of great players, I feel like, in baseball.
Yeah.
So maybe it's just different times in different sports, but I don't know. Specifically, I'm thinking of guys like Jason Taylor for myself, and I don't know. It just seems like it wasn't that long ago where Ken Griffey Jr. was playing baseball. Maybe it's just because time's passed that quickly.
Exactly. Yeah, that's the thing. It's like, wow, has it really been 5 years already?
Yeah.
Since, player X has played. Like because I'm pretty sure in a couple weeks we'll be discussing Brett Favre as a NFL Hall of Famer.
Yep.
And then we'll be asking the same question. We'll be like, wow, it's been 5 years since Brett finally retired.
Yeah, right. The last time.
Yeah,
finally.
He finally made it official for like the third time.
The unfortunate part of all that Favre part too is like I appreciated him as a player, and then like when he started doing all that, I really just resented him. I could no longer appreciate what he did because he just kept walking. I mean, and it wasn't really his fault either. I mean, looking back on it, it was really ESPN's fault. And I was watching a lot of ESPN back in the day. Like, it wasn't as bad as it is now. And, I kind of feel bad that took that out on Brett. He asked for it, but he didn't. It was one of those weird things.
Yeah. It is what it is, I guess. That's what I always say.
Yep.
And then, did you get your Powerball ticket for tonight?
I didn't. I actually completely forgot about it. So if you win and you want to make a donation to our show, we are more than happy to take any donations if you just won the Powerball.
Yeah, 500 million tonight. Of course, by the time most of you listen to this, the drawing will already be off, and who knows? One of you listening may be the winner.
Yeah, that's just an insane amount of money. I could never even imagine anything near that.
No, I know.
I don't know what anybody could possibly do with even like a tenth of that type of money.
It's almost like you are in Major League Baseball making all that money. I know. It's funny too. There was some kind of article not too long ago saying something like, "Oh, could Bryce Harper be MLB's first $500 million man?"
Oh my gosh!
And with Powerball tonight, someone else could become a $500 million man or woman. So, boy, it'd be beautiful if it was me. It would sure make traveling to Mobile a hell of a lot easier. That's for sure.
Oh yeah. You can ride there in a nice new car of your choice.
Yes, that's it. Absolutely. Buy a new car, and then buy a plane ticket and get everything down there. It'd be beautiful. So with that happy thought in mind, and I know what you're all saying out there. Yeah, keep dreaming.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, so we'll snap back into reality, and we'll kind of recap what's gone on since we last talked. And, of course, some of the big stories. Week 17 came and went, putting the end to another exciting and very interesting NFL season. And we talk about chaos a couple times on the show, how it could strike sometimes. Well, it struck in Week 17. We thought after the Jets beat the Patriots in Week 16 that they were going to waltz into the playoffs. All they had to do was beat the Bills. And what happened? The Jets fell flat on their face and opened the door for the Steelers to take that final playoff spot. So, guess what? The boys are back. Steelers back to being one of the hottest and most dangerous teams in the playoffs, and they draw Cincinnati this week in the wild card round. What was your takeaway from Week 17?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was the big one. It's like the incredible part is that, was the AFC favorite, like the team that could possibly be the best team in the conference, out of the playoffs entering Week 17. I mean, I think it's fair to say that the Steelers might be the best team in the AFC right now, considering all the injuries. It's kind of mind-boggling that it's so Jets that they would miss the playoffs in that fashion, and I actually feel bad for them because I think they were a good team. I really like Todd Bowles a lot.
Mm-hmm.
I like a lot of their players even. But I think you look at Pittsburgh and you say, if Ben Roethlisberger can kind of be a little bit more consistent, he was kind of up and down this year. I mean, he was his usual brilliant self for long stretches, but he just had some of those moments where it was like, oh, dude, what are you thinking? And he had kind of gotten away from that style of play the last couple years. And of course, being injured, not being on the same page with everybody, maybe that's part of it. Antonio Brown's incredible. So it's going to be really interesting to see them, and it's going to be interesting to see the Chiefs, another red-hot team. How do these teams do in the playoffs? I feel like the wild card teams in the AFC may be the two best overall teams, which, again, kind of just boggles my mind.
Yeah, and I mean, I feel the same way. I honestly feel that we could potentially have a battle of the wild cards in the AFC Championship. I think the draw sets up pretty well that Kansas City and Pittsburgh can meet in the AFC Championship. And certainly what helped the draw is another bit of chaos that came in Week 17, and that was the Patriots losing home field advantage. All they had to do was go into Miami, beat the Dolphins, secure the number one seed, and they could not do it. They lose to the Dolphins. Denver wins what ends up being a thriller against the possibly soon-to-be ex-San Diego, soon-to-be future Los Angeles Chargers. And the Broncos, after all they went through, get the number one seed in the AFC. So the draw sets up now that the Steelers would go to Cincinnati if they win that, and it's off to Denver for the divisional. And that's a winnable game, I think, for the Steelers against the Broncos, even if Peyton Manning is back, which, of course, he came back against the Chargers, played well. But, like we even talked about with the NCAA tournament, playoffs are all about matchups. And the matchups favor pretty well for the Steelers. Now, of course, the big issue, D'Angelo Williams with that foot issue. Will he be back in time for the Cincinnati game on Saturday? It's starting to look a little unlikely that he will be able to play on Saturday night. But the Steelers can survive this without him, then he should be good to go for the following Sunday against Denver. What do you think?
Man, it's just so up in the air. Like I just don't know what to even to expect. If you're looking at matchups wise, I'll say it just kind of go like a little bit game by game here. Kansas City, I think, is going to beat Houston. I mean, I don't think Houston's going to have much of a chance.
Yeah.
Now, like you mentioned though, and then that second round, that's where it really gets interesting because do we see Peyton Manning? Do we see Brock Osweiler? If we do see Peyton Manning, do I even really like the thought of Peyton Manning right now? I mean, is he that much more attractive than Brock Osweiler? I think he's the right choice because I think he's the higher upside play. But I mean, he could face a pretty nasty defense, depending on how the matchups go in week 2. And as far as going back to week 1 here quickly, AFC side, the Bengals, I just don't see how they win that game with AJ McCarron. What Hugh Jackson's done with him is pretty impressive. He's been not a train wreck. But AJ McCarron in no way, shape, or form is an NFL starting quarterback. It's just not who he is right now. And maybe in a couple of years, maybe you see that improvement. But it's hard to bet against bad quarterbacks, or hard to bet on bad quarterbacks, I should say. So I can't bet on AJ McCarron. I can't bet on Brian Hoyer. To me, those are well below average quarterbacks. And I hate to boil it down to just one position like that. But ultimately, these are good teams overall. All of these teams. Denver's got an amazing defense. The Patriots have a good defense. Bengals have a good defense. Kansas City has an amazing defense. Maybe even the best defense in the NFL right now, which is saying something because Denver's defense did some pretty special things throughout most of the year. So, Houston, again, playing better on defense. So, it really will come down to playmakers. You can win with a bad quarterback. It's just difficult. Ask TJ Yates from a couple years ago. He's probably the worst quarterback to maybe ever win a playoff game. So, and that's no insult on TJ Yates, but it's like you don't see it. You don't see it happen.
Mm-hmm.
So unfortunately, I'm not sure opening weekend's going to be that good on the AFC side. I think the NFC side might have the better matchups.
And the one thing I found interesting too about the way they set up the schedule is usually you see them kind of split up the conference games on Saturday and Sunday, like you have one AFC game, one NFC game each day. So when I looked at the schedule, I was like, wait a minute, they have both AFC games on Saturday and both NFC games Sunday. Like I found that really interesting. But yeah, I agree with you on the Bengals. You know, losing Andy Dalton is going to wind up being a big blow to them. You know, and not just losing Dalton, but losing the first round bye. I mean, they had a golden opportunity to get this weekend off, to let Dalton rest one more week, and then possibly have him back for a home divisional playoff game. Now they got to likely beat the Red Hot Steelers with A.J. McCarron at quarterback, and even if they win that and get Dalton back, well, now they got to go to New England and win there if they want to get to the AFC Championship. So the road is not favorable for the Bengals, and it's unfortunate because, again, this was a really good season, maybe their best opportunity to not just finally win a playoff game, but make a run at the Super Bowl. And then, of course, the Dalton injury, which, of course, came against the Steelers, so maybe this, you know, they have a chance at a little bit of revenge, I guess. But it's real unfortunate, I think, for the Bengals. It just, you know, I'm sure they would have much rather faced the Jets than face the Steelers, but you know, things happen, I guess. But
yeah, I really feel for the Bengals too, and mainly Marvin Lewis. I'm just such a big Marvin Lewis fan, and I know I've said that before, and I'm just going to continue to say it because I'm not ashamed of it. I think that's the guy that really deserves more credit than what they've gotten, but unfortunately, he's not going to get the credit because they haven't won a playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
So you just get stuck in one of those scenarios where bad luck goes your way, and it'll be interesting to see if the Bengals, if more noise comes out about them possibly moving on from Marvin Lewis. You know, I wonder if they would, and I think that's a mistake, by the way. We see it sometimes where playoff teams move on from their coaches because they can't hit the next step, and then they still never hit the next level. They actually regress. But it'd be interesting to see if they would possibly, what if they let go of Marvin Lewis and just hired Hugh Jackson? It'd be kind of funny with him being a hot coaching candidate around the league.
Yeah, wouldn't that be interesting? Yeah, so that's kind of a bit on the AFC side, and yeah, I agree with you. I think Kansas City should have a pretty easy time with the Texans. I think the defense will swarm against Brian Hoyer, and Alex Smith should have no problem. Yeah, we remember the last time, and I'm sure the Chiefs remember the last time they were in the playoffs too. That big choke against the Colts, the 28-point blown lead. To all the Chiefs fans out there, jinx and all that. Sorry, don't be mad at us for bringing that up, but I think they'll be fine this week against Houston. But yeah, so let's switch over to the NFC side. And as we've said before, there wasn't a whole lot of drama as far as, you know, who was going to get in. All 6 playoff teams were set by week 17. It was just a matter of seeding. The big game, of course, was Minnesota facing Green Bay for the NFC North title. And in a bit of a surprise to me, I didn't think they were ready to kind of hang with the big boys yet, but they certainly proved me wrong and very well deserved. The Vikings go into Lambeau, beat the Packers, and win the division. Their reward? The red-hot Seattle Seahawks on Wild Card Weekend. And oh, by the way, the temperature is supposed to be about 0 degrees.
Woohoo!
Or somewhere around there. Yeah, it's going to be very cold up in Minnesota this weekend. So that'll be a fun one to watch. And that's going to be an early game. It's a 1 o'clock start, I think. So it's, 10 a.m. Pacific time for the Seahawks. But I mean, I guess between Seattle and Minnesota, it's only maybe a 1 or 2 hour difference, but still, it should be interesting. But yeah, that's going to be a fun one. And of course, the loss means that Green Bay dropped to the 5 seed. They get to go to our nation's capital to face the Redskins. And I'm seeing too many people think that this is going to be a cakewalk game for the Packers. After looking over, thinking about it a bit and seeing people talk about it, they have a good point. Green Bay has not played that well over the last few weeks. Washington has played a lot better than I think a lot of people give them credit for. So by no means is this going to be, a easy win for the Packers. I mean, it was shocking at first to see that the Redskins are actually favored against the Packers, but when you sit down and think about it a bit, yeah, Washington's actually playing better football right now than Green Bay.
Yeah, and it was interesting too because I was looking at the lines for the game, and it started out Washington favored by 1 point, and it's moved to Green Bay favored by 1 point.
Oh, wow.
So to me, this feels like a Washington win. General public is overwhelmingly now betting the Packers because of name recognition, and rightfully so. Packers have been in the playoffs 18 out of the last 22 years. That's unbelievable. But, looking at, like you said, when you look at these two teams, how they're playing right now, there's no doubt about it. Washington Redskins are a better football team. They're a better team at home than when they played on the road this season.
Mm-hmm.
And everything just kind of points to saying, objectively, we're looking at this, and I just don't know how you can confidently say the Packers will win this game. At best, it's a toss-up. And if it's a toss-up, I think you should go with the home team.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think that Kirk Cousins might actually be playing better football right now than Aaron Rodgers. Washington's defense has been playing pretty well. It's crazy to think that, for as much grief as we gave the Redskins entering the season, because obviously you and I, when we talked about the NFC East, I don't even think we mentioned the Redskins all that much. Like, we talked about it a little bit, but when it came to picking a winner, their name didn't even come out of our mouths. We were like, oh, could be Dallas, could be Philly, Giants are a dark horse. No mention of Washington at all. Now here we are sitting here talking about them possibly beating the Green Bay Packers in a playoff game. But again, that's a credit to guys like Jay Gruden and Kirk Cousins and how well they've worked together. Hey, God, maybe the Cousins over RG3 thing actually paid off. It's as crazy as it was at the beginning of the season and all that mess. It's actually paying off for Washington.
Yeah, and Cousins' evolution is a great job of coaching, great job of building a team. It's a great job of Cousins to make those adjustments. He was a guy that was just a game manager at the start of the season, was still making mistakes, and when he made mistakes, they were back-breaking mistakes. He's rapidly improved, and he's playing with a lot of confidence. This team is healthy for the most part, and they've got a lot of weapons as well, which helps. And he's maximizing them. So it's really interesting to see this all happen in a very short amount of time. Mm-hmm. The Redskins have done very poorly against good winning teams this year, and they beat up on a lot of bad teams. So that's what I'm interested to see, really. Is this team a pretender? Because if you lose to the Packers at home, that's a pretty bad sign. It's a sign that the NFC East was, in fact, just a horrible division. Because, let's face it, I think every team in the playoffs except for Houston should beat the Packers right now. And maybe Cincinnati without Dalton. If they had Dalton, I would obviously pick them. But I think every other team, especially in the NFC, I think should beat the Packers. They're just playing that poorly right now.
Let's talk about the other wild card game. Seattle at Minnesota. First off, I was just real happy to see how well the Vikings did to get to 11-5. Yeah, well, you know me, I was on their hype train pretty much since February. hyping them up all off season long. Yeah, the Vikings are going to be a great team. I think they can win. I think I picked them to win 11 games before the season. So I think I got that right, but of course I had them as a wild card. But this is going to be a fun game, I think. I'm excited to see Teddy Bridgewater at home against the Seahawks team that really just went nuts against the Cardinals last week. I mean, you look at that score, that was just stunning to see. And, Arizona still had something to play for. It's not like Carolina played in the early game and locked up the 1 seed. So Seattle's coming in with a lot of momentum, but, the road trip to Minnesota, the time difference, the frigid temperatures, it's going to be interesting. And, we've seen in the past in cold temperatures, that field, it's not the prettiest of sights when it's freezing cold like that. It pretty much ended the career of Brett Favre. But with Peterson running well and the defense obviously playing outstanding, I think this is. I'm interested to see too that defense against Russell Wilson, because obviously Wilson's played outstanding the last few weeks. So I think this is a tight one. This could certainly go either way. This is probably the game I'm most looking forward to this weekend.
Oh, sorry about that. It looked like
That's all right.
It looked like I was on mute there. Sorry, can you repeat that question?
I was just, kind of talking about the Seattle-Minnesota game and thinking, this is the game I'm most looking forward to. I'm excited to see, the Vikings defense against Russell Wilson, Teddy go up against Seattle. So,
oh yeah, definitely.
It should be a fun one.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, Wilson's been playing out of his mind for the better part of 2 months here, and it's been fascinating to watch. I think I'm a big fan of Wilson, and it's really good to see him playing the best ball of his career. I'm obviously a big Teddy Bridgewater fan as well, and I think Bridgewater's played solid as well. I know people are going to look at the numbers and say, oh, he only threw for 99 yards last week against the Packers. I mean, he also probably has one of the bottom 2 or 3, if not the worst, supporting cast in the NFL. And they don't need him to throw a lot to win. And I don't think that that's an indictment on Bridgewater. I just think that's the current state of their roster, and they have to win a certain way, and that's how they win. And I think Seattle ends up winning this game. I just think they have too much offensive firepower compared to Minnesota. Minnesota needs a offensive-centric offseason and really provide Teddy with a couple receivers, a couple new offensive linemen. They need a lot of work. They need to devote all resources this year to the offense to really fix that up for Bridgewater, give him a chance to be great, which I think he can be. So I do agree with you, though, as far as the defensive battle, this will be a great game.
But, yeah, I think I have to agree with you. I think Seattle's just playing so hot right now. I think I would probably take them to beat Minnesota. So that would be, Seattle at Carolina and Washington at Arizona then would be the divisional matchups in the NFC. AFC, we would have Pittsburgh at Denver, Kansas City at New England. So there'd be some interesting matchups there as well.
Yeah, definitely. And health is going to be a big part of it. We just don't know exactly how things are going to look in a week from now, because it seems like every team has a key injury outside of, I guess, Arizona. Chris Johnson, I would consider that a considerable injury, as well as David Johnson is playing.
No Tyrann Mathieu either, which should hurt. But
oh, yeah, exactly. Still. Mathieu, good point. I kind of forgot about him. So really, then every team has a major injury. Carolina, they've dealt with some secondary injuries for sure. Mm-hmm. And so it's going to be interesting to see how these week 2 matchups face, because, all of a sudden, and we mentioned this, is New England hasn't looked good the last 2 weeks. So even though they have home field advantage, which is a huge advantage up there in Foxborough, their record in the last 110 games or something up there is absurd. It's like 112 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
They just dominate at home. So will they be able to overcome maybe like a hot Chiefs team? I don't know. I truthfully don't know. I mean, Alex Smith has played really well this year, and he deserves credit for that. Guys don't usually change this late in their career, but he's looking like a different guy. So, to me, that's a major storyline.
So early on, what is your Super Bowl pick?
Oh boy. I think I'll go Arizona and Denver.
Yeah, I've been saying Arizona for a while out of the NFC. I still feel they're the best team. And again, matchup wise, it could set up pretty favorable for them. I mean, we've talked about Washington playing well, but if it comes down to Arizona against Washington in the divisional,
Yeah.
that's a pretty good edge for Arizona, I think.
Yeah.
And then I think they're good enough to either go to Carolina and beat the Panthers, or if Seattle springs the upset, Arizona gets them at home and could easily overcome what just happened last week with that big blowout. So I think Arizona can make it to the Super Bowl, and I'm gonna go ahead and take Kansas City. I think I'm gonna say that it'll be the two wild cards in the AFC Championship, and I think Kansas City knocks out Pittsburgh. So I'm gonna go with Arizona defeating Kansas City in the Super Bowl.
I like that. I like that. No, I really like that pick actually because I was kind of debating whether to go Pittsburgh or Kansas City. Man, like I said before, you could really make a strong argument there. Those are the two best teams right now.
Yeah.
And that defense for Kansas City is no joke. They are so good. Like they've got great, like legitimately great players in the defensive line, the linebackers, cornerbacks, and safeties. Like they are phenomenal as a defense to watch.
Yeah, by all accounts, Kansas City looks like they have the defensive rookie of the year in Marcus Peters.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's my boy too. It's huge on Marcus Peters. Wrote a huge hype column on him last year, and thankfully it worked out.
There's no doubt he was very talented. I mean, we all, it was pretty obvious why he fell, but there's no doubt Kansas City got a great value for him where they got him. But yeah, so I'll say Arizona wins, and Carson Palmer's comeback story is complete. Though if I'm voting for comeback player of the year, it's Eric Berry, no doubt.
Yeah.
I don't care what anyone else tells me. You could have your Carson Palmer recovering from ACL. You could have this player doing that. I don't care. I didn't care if he was on the field for one play. Eric Berry coming off lymphoma to play again in the NFL, outstanding. That's like top notch in my book.
Yeah,
and not just coming back, but the way he played this year. Like he was back to being a top safety. So really, really nice to see that.
Yeah, no, I'm totally with you. I'm a big fan of Eric Berry in general. Just to see what he's come back from, it really is incredible.
Yeah. As I'm kind of scrolling through my Twitter right now, all the talk about our boy John Cena.
I love the thing with Cena is like I love like the videos of like just random stuff.
Yes.
I absolutely love that stuff.
You've seen the prank call with John Cena, have you not?
I don't think I have.
Oh man, that is the funniest thing in the world. This radio station keeps calling this lady, and because they know she like hates wrestling. She hates like when her husband or whatever watches it. So all they do is just they start playing like John Cena's theme or something like that, and then she just starts flipping out. She starts threatening to call the cops on them. Oh my god, this is the funniest thing in the world. But yeah, so apparently the news is he's going to undergo shoulder surgery, and he won't be at WrestleMania. So.
Oh wow.
Unfortunate for him.
Yeah, I stopped watching wrestling a long time ago, unfortunately, and I can't even say that one. It was probably just a few years ago, but um, he was always a fun guy. I always appreciated him. Um, kind of gets shoved down your throat though a little bit.
That's why a lot of people don't like him. I'll admit though, when I was younger, like 10 years, a little over 10 years ago, when he had like the rap character, I bought his album, and I still have it to this day.
Nice, nice. Back when he first came on the scene, and he won like I think it was like the U.S. title.
Yes.
He had the spinner
The
belt.
spinner belt.
I had like a chain of the spinner belt, and I recently found it in my dad's house, like where I grew up,
Nice.
and showing my fiance, and she was just like, she looked at me like I was an idiot, and say, hey, just don't be a hater.
You can't see me.
That's right. That's right. So.
In any event, so let's get back into football. Something else I just saw on Twitter just a little bit ago. We actually have our first coaching staff set for the Senior Bowl, and it'll be the Dallas Cowboys staff who have accepted an invitation to head down to Mobile to coach. So,
oh, nice.
Yeah, definitely. So Jason Garrett and company. I think that'll be fun to watch. My guess, because Tennessee might have a new coach. Cleveland obviously will have a new head coach. So I think they're going to move down to, well, we know now Dallas will be one. San Diego might be the other. I don't know. You would probably know this better than I would. Do they try to avoid like repeat coaching staffs?
No, not necessarily. I don't know if I'd say that they avoid it because they had the Jaguars 2 years in a row.
Okay.
So I wouldn't say they necessarily avoid it. But generally, I mean, if you're there twice in a row, I mean, if you're in place to be there twice in a row, you're usually not going to last too much longer.
That's a good point, yeah. If you're there, if you're in position to be there enough times, then obviously your team's not doing that well. Because I bring that up because, after San Diego and Dallas, there's Jacksonville sitting at 5.
Yeah.
Because, of course, now that the regular season's over, the draft order is set. And, of course, Tennessee does hold the number 1 pick. Cleveland ends up at number 2. Chargers at 3. Dallas 4. Jags move up to number 5 after the Niners beat the Rams in overtime, which also moved Baltimore up to 6. San Francisco ends up at 7. Your Dolphins sit number 8, so I'm sure you'll be curious to see what they do there. Tampa Bay at 9, Giants at 10. Then you've got Chicago, New Orleans, Philly, Oakland, St. Louis, 11 through 15. And then the rest of the non-playoff teams. Detroit at 16, Atlanta 17, Indy at 18, Buffalo at 19, and the Jets at 20. The rest of the picks, of course, will be set by playoffs, minus New England, who, of course, forfeit their first-round pick because of Deflategate. So early on, I don't know if you've done a mock draft yet, but
oh no,
what are you looking forward to as far as like how the draft order's set and where like some players could fall? Because I know there's talk about how there's only a select few teams ahead of, say, Philly at 13 that need a quarterback. Because some people are going to talk about the Eagles needing a quarterback. So I guess just in general, like where teams fall and what could potentially happen.
I'm not really too focused on draft order right now with the playoffs since the top 20 picks are set. I guess for teams that are going to be eliminated early, some could really benefit. Like, for example, if you're looking at like the Redskins, as much as a win would be nice, they really don't need a later pick. They really need an earlier pick. And you can still get great players if you're picking later in the first round. Obviously, that's how good teams stay good. But you want the better odds. The chances are that 1 or 2 players that you might really want, if you're picking 5 spots higher, well, you might have a chance to get one of them. So, um, I think that that's probably what I would take away. But right now, generally, late first round, if that's where you're picking, a couple spots generally won't make a huge difference. These rosters are generally pretty strong, except for, like I would say, Houston and Washington, and probably Green Bay, too. Those are teams that really could use as much draft help as they could.
Let's talk a little bit now about the coaches that were fired. We always think how Black Monday is going to be like so busy with all the coaching fires. Well, some teams jumped the gun and fired their coach on Sunday. Cleveland did so with Mike Pettin. San Francisco did so with Jim Tomsula. And then on Monday, Tom Coughlin steps down as head coach of the Giants. And then the shocker, Chuck Pagano gets a contract extension with the Colts. All the talk was that, Pagano's going to be out, and we'll see what they do with Grigson. And they end up keeping both of them. Now, of course, you can make the argument that, Andrew Luck was hurt and didn't play his best, so Pagano didn't exactly have a fair shot. But what's interesting, though, too, is the Colts just fired their defensive coordinator, so it's going to be... So after Pagano, it's going to be kind of a brand new staff for him, so it should be interesting. And then...
It was really shocking news when that came out, too.
Yes, it really was. Like I said, when it came out that he got not just that they were keeping him, but giving him a 4-year extension, it's like, wow. Like, we thought, he's coming in for a meeting today. This is going to be it. The meeting is going to be Irsay saying, thank you, but we're going in a different direction. But
yeah,
completely not. And then, of course, Sean Payton coming out today saying he's staying in New Orleans. So I guess we can put those rumors to rest as well. So it looks like we're set with the, I believe, 6 openings in the NFL.
Yeah, and the interesting thing with Peyton is that I think that they outpriced themselves as far as what they were looking for. They had originally put it out there, maybe second-round pick, but the reality is that look at what Sean Payton's done in New Orleans. He's been a big reason why that team has suffered. Last few years have been pretty bad. Even at the height of the Saints' play, and I can't take away the Super Bowl from them. That was an amazing run. But that team won, I think, maybe 3 division titles in Sean Payton's almost 10 years there? I mean, that's not acceptable. You have Drew Brees. There's a lot that went wrong there. It's obviously not all on Payton. But you have to sit back and wonder, can this guy build a roster? Or is he just really a glorified offensive coordinator running this team? I think he is. I honestly think he is. You have to build a competent coaching staff, and you have to know how to build a roster. You have to build with proper personnel men. And New Orleans has been very bad in the cap situation. They've been very bad on defense. They've had some bad coordinators, Rob Ryan specifically. I would not hire. Honestly, I don't think I would have even hired him if he was free. And that's not to say he's a bad coach. I just don't think he's the right coach. And I'd rather take a chance on somebody that's going to put together maybe a more formidable staff, maybe with a fresh idea of thinking. And I know that might sound bold because I know he's very well respected around the league, and he should be. His offenses are incredible. He's a top few offensive coach. Top few whatever. Top 5, top 6, whatever you want to say. Top 3. I agree with that. So it's just very difficult. For me personally, it would be very difficult for me to hand the reins of the franchise to him, let alone give up a high pick for him.
So looking at the coaching openings and some of the names that are floating around, obviously the big name is Adam Gase, the offensive coordinator for the Bears. He's pretty much going to be interviewing everywhere, it looks like. I believe he interviewed with the Browns today, which was Wednesday. He's already interviewed with the Eagles. Looks like he's going to interview with the Dolphins. He's expected to interview. He might possibly interview with the Giants. So he's pretty much going to be all over. So he's going to be he looks like the top prize in this year's coaching carousel. And then you've got guys, of course, like Hugh Jackson, Terrell Austin, Ben McAdoo. Doug Marone's name is back up there. Josh McDaniels, Matt Patricia. So the coaching carousel is starting to spin, and it's always fun to watch. So curious to see where some of these teams go, and which of these coaches get a shot. Where Adam Gase eventually ends up going.
Yeah, I think it's a deep market too. I'd kind of be weary of Gase, depending on who his defensive coordinator is. He just, to me, feels like one of those offensive coordinators that get the head coaching job, and the offense is good, but never gets it together on defense. It's hard to build a good staff, and you have to be a really good people person to be a head coach too. You can't just be a tactician. And on the flip side, a pure locker room coach like Tom Coughlin, Mike Smith, those guys are tough too, because there's a smaller margin for error, and you have to have two great coordinators as opposed to more of a tactitious head coach that was like a coordinator, for example, that may be able to control the offense himself, and then all of a sudden, okay, now you just need a really good defensive coordinator. So it's a fine line. It's an inexact science. You don't really know until you know, and that's why, especially for Eagles fans listening, and Dolphins fans too, possibly, and anyone else that has an opening right now, I don't get too high or too low off of any hiring, unless if it's just like a blatantly bad hire or a blatantly amazing hire. And there's really never a blatantly amazing hire unless if it's like Jim Harbaugh. Very rarely do those coaches come across the wire. And but as far as assistants, I really have no idea. I couldn't tell you. I can sit here and I can tell you, okay, the offense that this person runs is complex. It projects very well with this personnel. We can make those kind of conclusions. But as far as like, this guy's going to be a leader of men, he's going to turn things around, we have no idea. We have no clue. Even a guy like Tom Coughlin, if I've seen some rumors of like, if he wants to coach, then Miami might reach out to him. I saw that online, or they should, or at least people opining for it. I don't know why you do that. The guy's 70 years old, did a horrible job with the Giants this year. Several late game blunders. It's like, you can't just live off reputation. And that's why I do think that the NFL's process of hiring guys is kind of weird. People get really mad when teams interview like special teams coaches or running backs coaches. Again, you're looking for people. You're not really just looking for guys who are successful coordinators, because being a good coordinator doesn't mean much. I do think experience helps too. I was looking through like past hires the last decade, and generally retreads have a little bit more success winning. And I think that's because of connections. And I think it's because of learning from your mistakes. But that doesn't mean that first-time coordinator head coaches are going to be bad either. So it's, good luck to you if your team's looking for a head coach. Chances are they'll probably last 3 or 4 years, and you'll be looking for a new one again. And that's partially just because NFL front offices just aren't very efficient with their hiring process.
And very impatient too, as we see with some teams.
Unfortunately, yeah.
Namely Cleveland.
Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. It's a weird thing too, because it's like, you don't want to sit there and just give time to a bad coach or bad front office. Like, if you know that they're bad, then you do need to get rid of them. But it's really hard when it's like the second or third time in 2 or 3 years. Honestly, I don't think Cleveland should have ever fired Chudzinski.
Yeah, I was just he got a raw deal.
Yeah, they should have never fired him. I think he still might be in Cleveland if they would have never fired him the first time. But that's what you get. You get a first time owner who clearly has no idea what he's doing. He wanted to make his splash move. He thought he could get the big name guy to come in and run things, and well, turns out that he couldn't. And we'll see who. I think he'll get a pretty decent coach this go around. There's just too many potential good head coaches. I think at least from a tactical standpoint, there's a lot of good coaches available. You're not seeing the names of many just like random guys this offseason. Like you're seeing guys who've interviewed for 2 or 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a positive. I do think that's a positive. Even if it's like Terrell Austin, there's huge risks with someone like that. He's only been a defensive coordinator 2 years. But a lot of people do say that he's got a really good personality for a head coach. He's tough, but he's someone that the players really like. That'd be something that I want to hear. So, well, again, and we'll see. He may end up being a great coach. He may end up being a colossal bust. He may end up being just average. But there are small little things that you look for.
Mm-hmm. By the way, did you see the epic subtweet from Jim Harbaugh?
Oh, from a couple days ago?
Yeah.
That was incredible.
Do not be deceived. You will reap what you sow.
It was incredible.
Like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh boy, hello. Hey. He's right in a sense. You make your bed, now you sleep in it.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's true. It's true.
And now the Niners are in a bit of a funk. So it should be interesting as we go through this weekend. We see some of these guys get interviewed. Even guys like Sean McDermott, who we've talked about in the past. Curious to see if he ends up landing a job somewhere. It looks like he's scheduled a interview with Cleveland. It'll be interesting to see if the Eagles reach out to him. Because they have, don't think they've reached out to him yet, but we'll see, because he's expressed interest in wanting to come to Philadelphia. Excuse me. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, it's always good to hear that people are interested in coming.
Yeah.
We'll see though. We'll see if they can end up getting the job done.
I guess now we'll move quick to the college game, because as you mentioned at the top of the show, we do have the college football championship on Monday. Of course, we had a few bowl games since we last talked. Penn State unfortunately did not defeat Georgia in the Tax Slayer Bowl, but obviously dealt with some injuries to that game, namely Christian Hackenberg, who suffered a shoulder injury, and then, no surprise, declared for the NFL draft after the game. But yeah, Monday's the big one. Alabama against Clemson, and should be a real fun one. That Alabama defense against that Clemson offense. I'll tell you what, though, I think Clemson, they're feeling good about themselves. I think they've got enough firepower that they can win this one. And I think we might talk about it on the last show, but I guess we'll kind of rehash it a little bit. But yeah, I think Clemson can beat Alabama here and wrap up a 15-0 regular season.
I agree with you. I think that's very possible. Dual threat quarterbacks, spread offensive systems give Alabama a lot of problems, and they don't have the benefit of the extra time to really prepare. They get the normal time to prepare, just about at least, and give or take a couple days. But I don't think that's going to be drastic. So, I would not be surprised either, man. Clemson's very talented. They've got a lot of speed. They can attack vertically. That's what hurts Alabama is vertical speed. Um, Being able to spread the field, do a lot of different things as far as motion and getting guys isolated one-on-one. That's where they win. That's where Clemson wins, and that's where Alabama loses. So they've got a good chance. I think they have a pretty good chance, actually.
Now, as far as the NFL draft goes, one of the big names certainly in this game is Mackenzie Alexander, the talented cornerback from Alabama, or excuse me, from Clemson. Ashawn Robinson is another guy people talk about a lot. So, as far as draft stock goes and draft watch, who are some names that you're going to be watching in this one?
Definitely defensive end Shaq Lawson for Clemson if he can play. I know he didn't play much last game. I want to see if he can play defensive end Kevin Dodd on the other side. He's a little bit older, so I think he's going to be declaring early. He's long. He's got that mid-round potential. You kind of try to develop him into a player in the next couple of years, but he's definitely got some talent. Cornerbacks, especially Mackenzie Alexander, he's the big one. He's only 5'11", like 190 pounds, but he's long, very athletic, very feisty kid. I love the attitude he brings. He doesn't have any interceptions, though, in his career, which is really surprising. But that doesn't mean he's bad. Like, he's actually still a pretty good player. I like him a lot. I think he's a top 15 player in this class. And the other cornerback, Tankersley, he's probably like a day 3 guy. He's good, too. Alabama, their defensive front, their entire defensive front 7 is filled with NFL caliber players. And then offensively for them, obviously Derrick Henry, he's going to be the big one for them. And then offensively for Clemson, really their tight end, he's an NFL draft eligible player, but Deshaun Watson for 2017 is the guy to watch. So it's filled with prospects, not a lot of like uber prospects or like mega prospects, but there are some still very good ones.
Look at that, already a look ahead to 2017 with Deshaun Watson.
Oh yeah, can't help it.
Hey, it's never too early.
That's
never
right.
Too early. Hell, you probably have people that are looking ahead to say the 2020 draft with some of these high school players.
Oh, that would just be that's just too much. But I wouldn't doubt it.
But yeah, before we know it, the draft will be here. We'll be talking Senior Bowl soon. Still debating on whether or not I'm going to make the trek down. Leaning towards yes, but I've still got some stuff I've got to figure out. But if I am able to make it, certainly I'll talk about that here and hopefully get to see some of the players, and it'll be fun. Still planning a mock draft later in the off season with the 2 of us and a couple other guys. I've already got one person in mind that has pretty much I've reached out to him and he's expressed interest, so that'll be something to look forward to in the off season, and got a couple other guests potentially in the books or potentially in the wings we can get in here, so really looking forward to seeing what this off season brings us.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a good time, and I'm really looking forward to the projects that we've got going in the background, and I'm sure that we'll bring some really cool content to everybody.
Absolutely. So, as always, thanks for listening. Hope you're excited for what we've got coming up, because, like I said, I think we've got some real good stuff coming for you over the next few months. I think you guys will really enjoy. So, anything else, Ian? Anything else you want to share with the listeners before we head out?
I think that's it. Got content every day coming out of BleacherReport.com, so definitely feel free to check that out.
Absolutely. Check out his work. Of course, he is at NFL Film Study on Twitter, and of course you can find him on Bleacher Report and Draft Centric and wherever wherever you find him, just hit him up. He's a good guy. I'm, of course, at Bill_Rossetti, and you can check me out for if you want football talk, and I'll be hitting up bracketology very soon too, so be on the lookout for that. By the way, real nice win for Kansas the other night against Oklahoma in triple overtime, and go Tar Heels, 2-0 in the ACC so far, so let's keep it rolling. Yeah, so thanks as always for listening, and enjoy the playoffs this week and the college football final. So by next week, we'll be talking the last 8 teams left in the playoffs. We'll be previewing the divisional playoffs as we are creeping ever so close to Super Bowl 50. So hang in there. The ride's almost over. So for Ian Wharton, I am Bill Rossetti. Thanks so much for listening. We'll see you next time right here on the Grid Grads. Take care, everybody.